What is going on, guys? Happy Wednesday night live stream. How is everyone doing today? So far, we got Nanofish, American Reefin, K-Town Reefer. We got Raj, American Reefin, Gao Gao, Lisa's Fishbowl, Lisa's Aquatics, Lisa's Everywhere, Harkins. What's going on, guys? How are you guys doing today? The Reefer Recan, welcome. So today we are going to talk about feeding fish and corals, different types of food. Do you guys mix it up? Do you just feed the same thing all the time? Do you guys feed dry food, frozen food, live food? There's tons of different options out there. And I'm partially curious to know, what do you guys feed? And do you mix it up? Do you feed the same thing all the time? It's kind of curious to see what happens. I personally like to mix it up quite a bit. Variety is the spice of life. For the most part, my staple is frozen food. I also like to feed nori on a frequent basis. So we have, I wish it was Friday too, Lisa. So we have, our carnivores, we have our herbivores, and we have our omnivores. So omnivores, basically both, and that is the majority of the fish and creatures in our tank are omnivores, which means they're going to eat algae as well as meaty food. So they're like their proteins. So I get asked all the time, what do I feed my fish, or how much should I feed the fish? And there's a few different outlooks on this one. So some people are very skimpy on the feeding. They run very low nutrient systems. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's some that feed very heavy, and they also have very heavy on the nutrient export. So American Reefing, I feed small pellets and frozen and some nori. Do you feed that all daily, American Reefing? So one of the staples that I feed every morning to my tank is nori. Now I use sushi nori. You can buy fish tank ones, but in my opinion, it's the same thing. If I buy just sushi nori, then that's from like an Oriental supermarket type place. It's like $25 or something for like 200 sheets, so it lasts you a long time. So I feed that to my tank every single day. And everything from like even the triggerfish, the wrasses, like almost every fish in my tank will go for it. So what's going on, Clicklax? So pretty much everything will go for the nori. So I do think that is one important one. If you have algae in your tank, they're getting their stuff from there. If your tank's pretty clean, then supplementing, especially if you got tangs and those type of fish, it really goes a long way with the sushi nori. If you do buy sushi nori, make sure it is just the natural raw ones. Make sure there's no flavors or any type of enhancement type stuff they add to it, because they'll just be asking for trouble if there is. What's going on, Jamie? What's going on, Retro Reefs? So on the daily basis, I feed nori to my tank basically every single morning. At nighttime, I feed frozen food. PE mysis is the main frozen one. It's kind of my one staple one on the daily basis. So American Reef, feed twice a day, mix it up, do pellets in the AM, frozen at night, sometimes a little both. Perfect. Miguelito, when I feed my corals reef roys, I usually get an algae boom. So what's going on, Philip? So it partially depends how much you feed. So I use reef roys as well in my tank. I don't feed it all the time. It's maybe like once or twice a week I'll use it. A little heavier lately with the rock flowers. I'm trying to feed them pretty heavy to hopefully promote spawning. One of the other ones actually I'm trying. A couple new ones I've never tried before until now, and trying the oyster eggs. And this is mainly feeding this one to rock flowers. And at the same time, I tried feeding it to all my corals. Okay, so two different outlooks. Actually, question for you guys. Do you guys feed your corals, or do you mainly just feed the fish? So if you feed, what's going on, Mike from Washington, I think it is. Yes. So if you feed your fish poop is essentially feeding the corals. So a lot of people ask, do you have to feed corals? And you don't directly have to feed them. There is certain exceptions to that, where like something like a sun coral or an MPS, where they're non-photosynthetic, you actually do have to feed those. Or they'll usually wither away and bite the dust on you eventually. Now, most corals get I'm going to say roughly 80% plus from the light, photosynthetic corals. So the light feeds basically the zooxanthellae, the algae, which in turn creates, I believe it's sugars, whatever it does, it feeds the corals. The market and get fish eggs and squid. Yeah, that's a cool one. I've never tried making my own food, but eventually I think I'm going to try it. I think it'd be kind of cool to do. BRS did a live stream on it recently. They had lots of good stuff on making your own food. So it'd be something kind of fun to do at some point. Mainly just feed your brains. Oh, another thing. Supposedly acans I don't overly target feed my acans, but supposedly they get a lot better colors if you feed them heavy, so I'm starting to try that mainly. Greg, I feed corals only. The fish snatch and snack. Good for them. There you go. Keep your fish active. So I tend to broadcast feed the tank quite a bit. And when I do that, most of the time I use mysis. And once in a while, I'll add in something like catalyst, which is super small particles. Now, the other thing I've done since I've changed my new tank, I put a really long feed mode on my return pumps. So when I feed the tank, my return pumps are off for 45 minutes to an hour, and the power heads are really low for about 15-20 minutes, and they kick back up to normal. And so what this does, it keeps all the food suspended in the tank. So majority of that is going to be all the little tiny particles will feed all your corals. So the fish get the big bits, and those little bits churn around your tank for the next half an hour, 40 minutes, and that's going to feed your corals. So that's the majority of it. Now, once a week, I'll be motivated, and I might spot feed some corals. I'm trying to try a little bit of reef roids with the rock flowers and with the acans mainly lately. And then the other one I'm really starting to try is the oyster eggs. I haven't tried this one yet, but I also picked up a different one to try out for tiger feast. Super tiny. It's 250 to 1700 microns, so these ones have to be refrigerated, but super tiny little things. Most of this is because I'm trying to figure out what the rock flowers love to get them to spawn. But so there's different things. Now, pellet food. Okay, so Ryan's saying I feed 1 frozen cube of different stuff daily, frozen cube of coral gumbo daily, 1 broadcast the tank at 7 p.m. Who's headed to restock? I wish I could. Would be fun. What's going on, Joe from Oregon? Once a feed. So my fish get pellets twice daily, feed frozen mysis 3 times per week, and broadcast feed the corals. So my broadcast feeding is almost daily, so that is the majority of the coral feeding. And now I have like some buddies on the opposite end of the spectrum. My one buddy Brad, he feeds frozen food once a week, and his fish just get pellets the rest of the time. So pellets is another thing. I don't feed pellets often, so I have excessive amounts, but I have all types of random different size. I don't know why I categorize them by size. So I have like 3mm, 2mm, and 1mm pellets. And for those, I literally just took a bunch of different brands and mixed them together. So I have like New Life Spectrum, a couple different from them. I got the PE Mysis ones. I have a bunch of that stuff in there. And I just blended them together, and I'll fix that. So I recently put some into my auto feeder. And so they get a lunchtime snack now of pellets, which I wasn't doing that before. So other funky ones, I got these actually from Macna. Goji berries and algae ones. Those are from Nios. That's another one I'm trying to try, which is kind of funky. Now, one, just because it's sitting here, one cool one, Nios arthremus liquid plankton concentrate. This one cool thing that I learned about this guy is you do not have to refrigerate it. So you can put it on a doser, which I think is actually kind of cool. So maybe one day you can have a doser and stuff after. It'd be pretty awesome. Ship to me after Jason. I wish Rubio's curls would ship to me after I'd seen watching your nano. Yeah, so so a lot of people asked about that. Some other people from Canada. I drove to the States to get my rock flowers. Most people will not ship cross-border. If you do want to ship cross-border, you need a fish and games permit and some other stuff. It's doable, but you gotta spend $100 on a permit and a bunch of other stuff. So it's a bit of a hassle, but doable. The harder part is usually talking someone into doing the shipping for you. So if you live close to the border, go for a big drive. That's basically what I did at the end of the day. So it's definitely worth it. I would like to try Benny Reef Coral, but you can't get it where you live unless you import it. Yeah, so I mean, there might be some. Like, I got a place where I can ship stuff to the border now and just go pick it up. I'm gonna charge a couple bucks a package, so it's not a bad way to do it. Frag Farmers Market. I've heard a lot of things. That looks like a really fun event. How many of you actually feed flake food? Freshwater is mainly flake, and saltwater, not a ton. This is another PE flake, so this is somehow they turn mysis into flakes. And this is one of the little samples I got from Macna. So I've been trying it. The fish actually really like it, but it's not, I don't normally feed it just because I like have most of it on the auto feeder and stuff, but can you just peer for a moment so I can see your beautiful acans? You can kind of see them on the side. They are super fluffy. I keep getting asked why my acans are super fluffy. I don't do anything special for them. they get broadcast fed. As for the flow on them, yeah, so it's broadcast feeding. Once in a while, I'm trying to spot feed with either reefroids or the little particles left over from mysis. And for par wise, they are between 80 and 120 par, depending on which part of the ACAN mound you look at. Flow, I'm going to say they're probably medium to low to medium flow. Right behind the text on the top right corner of the screen, there's a MP40 that circles this way, and it's probably about a third of the way into the tank. So, and the other MP40 that would be touching them is a 5.5, 6 feet away at the far end of the tank. So they are getting some flow, but not a ton. Like, they got a nice movement to them. So that's kind of one thing to consider. So other than that, don't do anything super duper special. What's going on, John, Sam, Michael? Welcome, guys. Someone was just saying they feed flake food. Vital Marine Flakes. Haven't heard of that. Haven't tried that one yet. What's your technique on feeding reefroids? Okay, so reefroids, I will take a little scoop and I'll mix it in a little container with a bit of tank water. And I have one of the Julian's things. I was going to grab it. I forgot about it. It's basically a syringe with little finger holes and a big tube on another big stick and a little pointer thing. So it's basically like using a syringe, but you don't have to put your hands in the water because you have like a foot of hose to work with. And when the tank's in feed mode, I'll have the flow really low and I'll just spot feed with it. Just kind of target feed the general area vicinity around the corals. That's kind of my go-to with that. ACANs can easily take full-size mysis and low flow for fluffiness. Yeah, they definitely do. If you can kind of see them like wiggling a bit in the background action in the video, so it gives you a bit of an idea. Keep reefroids thick. It's random. Some days it'll be thicker, some days thinner. It all depends how much water I put in. Retro Reef, as using Red Sea algae problem, started dosing Acropower and fuel. Okay, with acro or amino, so some people mix amino acids in their food. Some of them put it on the doser. Like I have one friend that swears by it. He doses like 50 mils a day and he swears his corals get better colors. Some frozen foods will have amino acids mixed into it. I have found a couple times, I don't know if this is related, but I feel when I've overdosed amino acids, I've had a bit of, not algae, but more of like a brownish type of stuff on my sound bed. Warren, what's going on, buddy? Welcome to the stream. So I have noticed a few times that I've had a bit of funkiness on my sand bed when overdosing aminos, like too much. Now I can't say 100%, it's just kind of anecdotal, I've kind of noticed it. But overall, there is benefit to feeding it. There are certain things, like I know a bunch of different companies that sell amino, or like Polyp Lab has their Polyp Lab, yeah, has their Polyp Booster, I think it is. I think that's like an amino acid, and there's a few different ones that have it. Tank is looking beautiful. Thank you, Mike. Much appreciated. So when you have aminos, some of that will trigger feeding response on coral. So that is one thing, like your polyps could be out more. And amino acids are something that is kind of a building block for coral. So it is definitely good to have. There's a ton of different products that have it mixed in with it. Thank you, Lisa, for you guys enjoying it. Smash that thumbs up button. What's going on, Ugly Man's Reef? Matthew Smith had ACAN try to eat a hermit crab molt and spit it out. Nice. How long can a saltwater tank go without feeding? Okay, you're fine for a couple days to go without feeding. Loving the tunes in the background. Thanks, Lisa. So some people, I remember one store when I first started talking to them, they only fed their fish every second day. Where my fish get fed like 3 times a day, but as you can see, like my powder blue, like he's pretty chunky. He's definitely got a lot about it. Aquavita Fuel. I've not tried that one. I've tried 2 little fishies. I've tried the Polyp Lab one. Nias Coral Nectar. Does this have aminos in it? It might. Color and growth boosters. I'm assuming it probably has it in it. I've tried a few different brands of it. Some of them are more watered down. Like if you buy the big bottles, it's a lower concentration of aminos versus some is a little eyedropper, and you know it's definitely pretty darn concentrated. So all is well in moderation. Yeah, so Greg was saying fish can go weeks without food. So most of the time, and a lot of tanks, like you'll see even fish in the background, like they'll peck at the rocks, they'll find little things to eat. Don't feed often. Yeah, so I feed very heavy compared to a lot of people. Like considering that every morning they get a chunk of algae. Sushi roll, so half a sheet, so I put in my tank every day, one of those strips. They get that, and as of recently, they get a ration of pellets, and then at night I usually feed frozen. So it's quite a bit of food. And if I'm ever lazy once in a while, I'm running out the door, I'll just throw in a bunch of pellets instead of feeding frozen. But so I feed one every other day, different cube. Same thing. Like I've had just random ones, but at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to variety. Like, at least if I was a fish, I wouldn't want to eat the exact same thing every single day. And some foods may have more of one nutrient. It could be lacking something else. You know, maybe it's bulk processed and there's some weird little contaminant in it. Like, variety goes a long ways. Now, the type of fish you have also makes a difference. Like, certain fish will graze. On the flip side, you have something like an anthias. What's going on, Easy? Welcome. And they have very small little stomachs. They're very active fish, so they need to eat lots. Like if you have anthias that are given around your tank all the time, you're going to want to have an auto feeder that feeds, 4 times a day type of thing. So you want to give them lots of mini meals so it kind of keeps them going. What's going on, Michael? I don't have Hangout started right now or else I'd pull you in. How can I get my nitrates down? Okay, so speaking of feeding, when you feed your tank, you're adding nutrients to your system. Now, if the fish don't eat it, it could be rotting your tank and adding nutrients. If your fish eat it all and poop it all out, that's still causing nutrients to your tank. So first thing is you could start feeding less. So putting less nutrients into your tank is the first step if you want to drop nutrients. Now, the other side of the equation is upping your nutrient export. That could be water changes, that could be a more intense refugium, it could be a turf scrubber, it could be skimming more. So there's all those different type of things you can see. So you can have heavy food in if you take heavy food out. You got to find that balance. Now, a lot of times people will say, how much do I feed my fish? Do you feed 2 pellets? Do you feed 20 pellets? Now, if you're looking in terms of kind of density of food, like nutrients per volume, pellets have a lot of nutrients in that little pellet. Next would probably be like a frozen food. Then after that would be something like a liquid food, which would be something along like the Niles liquid food, or like the tiger feast or oyster eggs, all that type of stuff. So you got to consider what you're feeding and how much nutrients are bound up in that. Like flake food is probably fairly low on the nutrient level. So you could probably feed a lot more flake than you could pellets. So a handful of flakes is probably like, a little pinch of pellets type of thing. So what you're feeding goes a long way. Do you auto feed your pellets into a feeding ring or just let it broadcast on its own? So my auto feeder of pellets is in my sump. I have a power head in my sump, and the power head turns on about 5 minutes before the feeder, and it's really high flow in that chamber. And it drops my pellets into the sump, and the power head keeps those pellets suspended until they get sucked into the return pump and they blow into the tank. So it's not all at once, it will just randomly start firing pellets throughout the tank. So it's a good way to let the fish randomly get it. And because I have really high flow during the feeding time in my sump, it doesn't let anything settle. And I do this because I want my tank to look sleek and I don't want any feeders and that stuff hanging on the edge of my nice rimless tank. So that's kind of why I do it that way. Retro Reef, zero nitrates is the devil for SPS. WWC told me to shoot for 25 ppm. I'm trying to get back to 10. Okay, so if you are low on nitrates, easiest thing to do is feed more. Your corals appreciate the food, your fish will feed it. What's going on, Rogue Aquariums? Welcome. Can food be used to raise nutrients? 100% can. Yeah, so if you're fighting, if your tank's too low on nutrients, your nutrient output is too efficient, feed more. Your fish will appreciate it. Your corals will likely have better colors. So if there's like the Zeovit method, which is super low nutrients, your corals get the very low pale, and that's on the low end of the spectrum. Now, I find if you feed heavier, you get more darker, deeper colors out of your corals, which to me, I like. And for nutrients like nitrate, the 10 to 20 is kind of like, in my mind, the happy range. Phosphates, I get asked to 0.3 to 0.9 is kind of, I see as a good range. I tested last night, and I think mine are like 0.7 right now. And you don't know if you're not going to test. If you want to know, can I feed my tank more? Test your phosphates and your nitrates. If they're really high, you might be feeding too much, or you're not exporting enough. If your nutrients are really low, then maybe you should be feeding more, right? So, I mean, the only way to 100% know is to test and see where your nutrients are at, to let you know how much room you have to feed more and do less. If you're doing big water changes every week, I mean, you can get away with a lot more. If you're a slacker on water changes, then hopefully you have a good refugium, really good skimmer to kind of make up for it. What's the best way to clean algae and coralline off a power head? So best way to clean it, 100% do a vinegar and water mix. So I generally do 50-50 vinegar and water. And I just have like a big beaker and I'll throw my power head in it and let it soak for 20-30 minutes. and then just rinse under the tap or use a little scrub brush and it'll look brand new. And I actually did that the other day. Cleaned all my MP40 wet sides the other day. Vinegar and water is 100% your friend. You can get like citric acid and different stuff to do it, but go to like the dollar store and it's like $2 for a gallon of vinegar, and that's a ton of cleaning. So that's what I go to. Which nitrate kit is the best and most accurate? I use the Red Sea one just because it's what I have. I believe NIOS was another one that I've heard good things about, but I've only ever really used the Red Sea one. If you don't have a test kit, the Red Sea has one of their, I think it's called the Foundations, but it's kind of like your best bang for your buck for a kit for all the basics. And for phosphates, I like the Hana just because it gives you a nice digital readout. But I do find the nitrate test a bit of a pain, so I don't do as often. Phosphate one I do fairly frequently. So citric acid, vinegar, there you go. Exactly, but yeah, vinegar, 100% your cheapest solution. Anything that's caked in coralline, algae, anything, 50-50, vinegar, water, dump it in, give it half an hour or so, take it out, give it a little scrub, it'll look brand new again. Starting a clown breeding system, that'd be kind of fun. Okay, now speaking of food, if you're breeding clowns, one thing that you'll want to do is start a rotifer culture. So we talked about feeding all types of different food. Now, speaking of which, I have all these bottles all over my desk. So I just restarted a couple of my own cultures. So last week I did a stream on culturing phytoplankton, and phytoplankton is kind of one of the important things if you want to culture rotifers or pods and other stuff. So I just restarted my cultures and I picked up some tiger pods and apex pods. So I'm using that, and the phyto is one of the things to help keep your pods going. So if you are breeding clowns, this is probably where you want to do your own phytoplankton cultures, as well as rotifers are a good one because they're super duper tiny. Now, culturing rotifers is a lot of work because you almost got to give it daily maintenance. Bigger pods you can be a little more lax with. So a couple different things to look at, but if they're super duper tiny little ones, then rotifers are the way to go. You're already on it? Perfect. If you haven't tried it, I'm going to try this with pods because I'm curious to know how this works. Reef Nutrition has their compact culture system, and that is made for rotifers, but I'm going to try with pods because I'm curious if it's going to work. I don't know if the flow is going to be an issue for them, but we'll find out. That's going to be one of my next random future projects. Getting those babies growing. Excellent. So another good question. Do many of you guys feed live food to your tank? Jay, hello, good sir. Welcome to the stream. Hello from Germany. Welcome, Pascal. So live food is an interesting one. So culturing live food is definitely more work. You can buy it. And again, like you can buy pre-empty bottles. You can have your own cultures. And even with rotifers and a lot of those different ones, I mean, feeding them to MPS or your corals can actually have some benefits to it too. I've been kind of purposely, same thing with the rock flower tank. I do have mandarin in there as well, but also trying to see if adding phyto and a lot of this stuff will help promote spawning of the flowers. It's another kind of cool way to do it. Support your bartenders and waitresses. Thanks for the $5 super chat, Kevin. Much appreciated. The bartender thanks you. Yeah, black storms are pretty cool. Now, do you guys feeding corals? Do any of you guys feed your corals live food? It's another interesting one. Rotifers, for instance, if you are culturing those guys, they will be eaten by a lot of the polyps of the like SPS and those type of corals as well, which is kind of cool because they're super tiny and they can be caught. If you're looking at in the ocean, they have a constant flow of microfauna and little creatures going by that your corals can catch, and we don't have that in our reef tanks. Kevin, again, thank you. Much appreciated, buddy. So Ryan's saying I get live brine from my LFS. So brine shrimp, one thing with brine shrimp are most of the time, if you feed them, they're most nutritious when they're a baby and they're first hatched. And a lot of time, if you are feeding it, you want to feed them lots of phyto and you enrich them with phytoplankton. So you're actually getting most of the nutrients out of the phyto inside the guts of the little creatures. So Jay, I don't feed live foods other than adding copepods that I rarely add to an order. Yeah, so copepods are a good one. It's good to restock your tank once in a while. What are you feeding? So Fishy's asking, what are you feeding your rock flowers? So far for the rock flowers, I've been feeding them ReefDudes. With the little babies, they're super tiny, so ReefDudes is one of the ones I do. And I've also been trying oyster feast. That's the other one I've been trying with them so far. And I haven't tried this one yet. I'm probably gonna try this one tonight. And this one is concentrated zooplankton feed, 250 to 1700 microns. So that's the next one I'm gonna try feeding to the rock flowers. So I'm trying to vary it up and feed them lots of little tiny particle foods. Fishy Snowman, by the way, nice rock flower tank. You're part of the one that sucked me into adding all the rock flowers to my tank. Richard from Reese, what's going on? Welcome, buddy. Just came in to say hi. Always good to see you in here, man. Random question. What do you do to support this hobby? I work in technology and in healthcare. That is my main job. YouTube is my hobby job. What are your thoughts on feeding live whiteworms to fish? I did that in freshwater days. I used to feed the live, like the microworms. I haven't done it in saltwater, but I am willing to bet that there's still lots of nutrition. I bet you the fish go crazy on it. For bigger fish, I mean, it's a pretty small snack. If you're breeding fish, it's probably a good idea to try it. All Day Reef, welcome. Welcome, good sir. Jay, I feed coral pellets and coral frenzy and some frozen mixed in from time to time. I like Rod's food. I haven't seen Rod's food up in Canada, at least. That's one I have not tried yet, but a lot of people seem to swear by that one. Feed live baby brine and rotifers. So I have a jellyfish tank as well. So I do hatch baby brine shrimp for jellyfish. Now, I do feed that to the tank once in a while too, and you will see all the fish I can go crazy for it. But if you guys are hatching brine shrimp, they're most nutritious within the first 6 or so hours of being hatched. Now, one thing that you can do if you're hatching brine shrimp, what's going on, One Production? If you are hatching brine shrimp, as soon as they hatch, put them into the fridge. That's going to slow down their metabolism, and it's going to slow down how long it takes them to eat their little yolk sac and keep them nutritious longer. Now, if you're trying to grow brine shrimp to be bigger creatures, you want to feed them lots of phytoplankton because that's going to enrich them and then give those nutrients to your fish. Otherwise, if you're not feeding them that, they're not as nutritious and they're more just something fun to feed and watch your fish chase them around. Come on, good stuff. You got to try it. I'll try it one of these days. Another kind of cool one too. All Day Reef Whiskey in the chat. He feeds his copper brown butterfly. What's it called? Melanaris clams? No, that's fish. But Menaris, whatever they're called. Anyways, clams. Menaris clams? Totally mind blanking on the name. But if you get fresh clams from the seafood market, you can throw it in, your fish just go nuts over them. He's the one that got me on that, so I have a bag I have in my freezer, and I throw it in like once every week or two. And same thing, the fish will go nuts, and all the fish will start pecking at it. So it's really good, there's different ways to mix it up and give them a different diet. Going order from Rubio's after seeing your package. Yeah, he had some nice stuff. I was really happy with all the rock flowers he picked out for me. Rigger's food is very good and clean. Rigger's food, I haven't heard of that one before. That's new one to me. Hello from Pittsburgh. Love your channel and what you do for the hobby. Thanks so much, Ashwin. Much appreciated. Bennett Pits. I haven't tried that either. Some of these foods are harder to find in Canada, so I haven't seen it all, but lots of people seem to love that one as well. It might be, maybe next time I do an order to the States, I'll just ship one there and bring it back and try it out. Someone sure did say Rubio. I see a Nathan Rubio. What's going on, G-Day Reefing? Welcome, welcome. So, as soon as I want to get more rock flowers. I know, they're addicting. It's a whole new addiction to the hobby. My nano, I added 20, and the nano still feels empty. I feel like you could easily throw another 20 or 30 in there. It's crazy. So I said a 2-liter bottle with bubble stone and hatched brine shrimp. But man, more hassle than it's worth. Okay, you can 100% do brine shrimp with the bottle. There is a dish from a company called Hobby, and it's a dish with a bunch of rings in it. And then there's like a little circle ring. I have it, it's upstairs somewhere. And basically what it does, you don't need a bubbler, you don't need light, you need nothing. It's like the best thing ever. If you're going to go through the hassle of hatching brine shrimp. I honestly don't know if I would do it unless you're breeding fish or you have jellyfish or something that appreciates the live food. But that little dish from them, it has all these rings. You put water in it and you put all your eggs on the outside of it. And you can put a light over it or just have it in a warmish area. And how it works is the little baby brine shrimp go over, under, so it naturally separates the eggs. And there's a little strainer in the middle with a hole in the lid. So they're all attracted to the middle to get to the light. And they're naturally separated. So you just put it in there, and like 16 and 20 hours later, you pop it out, and you got a little dish full of brine shrimp. Easiest way ever to do it. So if you guys ever want to do brine shrimp, 100% recommend that thing. Change your life with brine shrimp. So Aaron's Aquarium, Michael, I work for a fish food production company. This stream is my jam. All right, man. Let me set up Hangout. I will bring you in. You didn't respond quick enough, so I didn't set up Hangouts earlier. But what is your fish food company? I didn't know they made fish food. You're making me question this one now. I'm just gonna call you directly, Michael. Kevin, a second $5 super chat. You were the man tonight, Kevin. Thank you so much. Get in the stream, Michael. Okay, Michael, I'm pulling you in, buddy. The Coral Beauty and the Flame Angel never worked out for me. I tried 2 flames, 2 Coral Beauties, love the fish, same time. So, I haven't had them at the same time. I did have Brad, actually, all day, he's still in the chat. He has both. He said they fought like crazy for about a week or so, and then they were fine and other friends. Mr. Michael, you got us the phone if you want to join, buddy. Flames and corals are both beautiful fish. Absolutely love them both. That's my jam. Who wants me to pull you in? You don't answer the call. What's going on, Michael? Hey. Let me turn the music down and turn you up. There we go.
Everything. There you go.
And let me pull up your video. Give me 1 sec here. I have my 8,000 different sources. I gotta find the right one to hide.
And the right buttons as well.
There we go. Look at that smiling face.
A lot more streamlined than me.
All the way from the other side of the pond.
All the way from the other side of the pond.
So what is this? I didn't know you were in fish food game too. Do tell.
Yeah, that's what my the company that I work for. It's a distribution company for many different products, but their main core is the manufacturer of fish food. That's what they do.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why, like when you was earlier on, you saying, do you want to come on as a guest? And it's like, obviously it's late for me, so I didn't know whether or not I'd be awake. Mm-hmm. And then, whoa, that's super zoom on my face.
Here, I'll shrink you down a bit here.
So I didn't know. And then when I looked at the screen and it said, oh, I'm going to be talking about food, and that's like, oh, right, yeah.
You didn't respond quick enough, so I started without you.
I was watching that Alita Battle Angel. It's pretty good.
Nice.
So basically, that's what my company does. The actual manufacture the flakes and the pellets, and they've got, like, say for example, they've got one of the best-selling foods in the UK for marine, which is the frozen version of this, which is called Mysis RS.
Yep.
So you might know it as like PE Mysis. That's a very similar similar product.
So I just want to throw the fun fact out there on this one. So PE Mysis, Piscean Energetics, is I was feeding that food basically since I had a saltwater tank. It was like my go-to. And then about a year into the hobby, I learned it's actually harvested from my local lake. Like I can see it out my window where it comes from. So,
right. Okay. Yeah. So that's exactly where this food comes from as well. Mm-hmm. From that lake. So obviously, it's a shame you can't just go down and go and get it yourself. You never get anything.
Wait. So your food in the UK comes from my local lake.
It does.
Nice. I can look out the window and be like, "There it is, Michael." I'm gonna send you a photo later. I can be like, "That's where your food comes from."
You have to send me a photo because I don't know where the lake is. I've just heard about it.
I was talking to one of the owners of PE the other day. I'm gonna go shoot a video with them at their new office soon, so that'll be kind of fun, or a live stream or something. Go check it out.
Yeah. So I remember the first time when I started working for this company and I saw flake and pellet being produced. Like, say for example, you look at flake and it can be whatever, flakes that size or bigger or smaller or whatever, but that's what we know, innit? Yep. That's what we know as flake.
I haven't even opened it yet.
But when it's coming off a machine, it's like this wide. It's like this big, wide sheet. It just comes off as a sheet, and it just rolls off this machine, and it's fascinating to just watch it come out, and it's watching how it's made as well. So say, for example, that mysis, that comes from your lake.
Yep.
This flake, for example, is just that ground down to a paste, put through a machine and turned into a flake. That's it. And it's crazy how it all works. And then pellet is even more, like mad because again, we're used to these tiny little pellets,
Mm-hmm.
but they actually come out as big long noodles.
Oh yeah, and just
You know what I mean?
chop it up.
Yeah, and they just chop it up into little pellets. So
You got
it's
some
proper cool.
you got some crazy sous chef just goes through. It's probably just shake, but
Just like that going through it. It's one of those guys off Men in Black that's got multiple arms.
yeah.
But yeah, it's proper fascinating to watch, and also as well, it's fascinating to know what actually goes into flake and pellet. Because I know as a hobbyist before I started working here,
Yeah.
there's that sort of like myth that goes around in there where flake is just the crap that's just swept up off the floor and put into a flake and stuff like that. So actually seeing it being produced, actually seeing it being made with quality, products like mysis and Calanus, for example, and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's proper crazy to see it done. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's proper wicked. And somebody was talking earlier about raising nitrates with food.
Yep.
I'm currently in a situation with the main display. I've still got the wife, by the way. She's over there. So I've still got
You haven't
the wife.
divorced her yet, eh? She's still around?
No, she's still there. She knows she's on her way out though.
Yeah. Poor girl.
But yeah, but at the moment I'm struggling with low nutrients because I don't feed my fish often.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sort of like the polar opposite to you. I
Yeah.
probably feed once every 3 days, maybe. You know what I
And I
mean?
feed 3 times in one day.
Yeah, that's it. So I probably only feed once every 3 days. And, I've got a big, my earmuff rat is like this. And he's a big lad. Do you know what I mean? And he's still just as big. He's never lost any weight, and stuff like that. So it sort of like goes to show that certain fish don't need to be fed as often as we feed. So this is something else I've learned since I've been, doing fish food and stuff is the way that fish consume food. Now, it's not like us. They don't chew it like us and then, break it down into little bits for them to digest.
Well,
basically, sorry, go on.
Some fish actually, like we feed a pellet. If it's a harder pellet, you'll see them take a bite, spit it out, take another bite, where they're basically letting it soften up before they can eat it.
So what they're doing is they're actually making it the size enough for it to go down the throat. So they, in essence, they're not chewing it like, traditionally as we think. What they're doing is that it's going into the mouth and then it's going into the throat and it basically gets compacted. Certain fish do it as well. It gets compacted and then it goes into the gut. Now, fish are basically sausage machines. You know what I mean? Like when you're constantly feeding them, yeah, it just goes in and comes back out again. Now, certain types of foods like hard pellets, hard flakes and stuff like that, once the food goes into the gut, obviously it needs to be digested. Now, the harder the food is, the more difficult it is for them to digest the nutrients that are inside it before they pass it. So you could, in essence, be feeding double the amount of food just to give them the normal amount of nutrients, if you know what I mean, if you was giving them a more efficient food. And it's as well, it's like, certain things like how the food is produced, speed. If a food is produced fast, it creates friction. So like I was saying about the pellet comes out of these big long noodles out of an extruder. It goes through a machine. The faster it goes through a machine, the more heat through friction.
Yep.
Now, we know just by cooking a steak, a raw steak is more nutritious than a well-done steak because you lose nutrients from food when it's subjected to heat. So, the more heat it's subjected to, then obviously the more nutrients it loses. So speed can be a thingy as well. So like, fast production and stuff like that can take it down. So, like the pellets that, that we use, for example, it's a gelatin. So what they use is actual gelatin from fish, like fish scales. So rather than just using a general gelatin, it's actually from fish scales. And that acts as not only the binder to make the pellet, but it also works as a heat protector. And then the natural oils that are in the food as well, again, works as a heat protector. So you've got a 2-layer protection and it goes through the machine as slow as it physically can. You know what I mean? So there's more nutrients available in the food. So it's this knowing that has really opened my eyes to like, how do other people do it, and stuff like that. And it's big questions to ask for food manufacturers is how do you manufacture your food? Because we don't know. You know what I mean? We don't know
Well,
what's in it.
I'm gonna go find out the PE guys because I'm gonna go to their factory soon, just because it's like a 40-minute drive. So what the heck?
I know how they do it because they've got proper good food. You
Yeah,
know,
I,
like I
I
said, it's the same. They've
I've
got
I've
really
heard
good food.
supposedly do it at a lower temperature and everything else, so it's supposed to
Well,
keep it
what
make it
they
more
do,
nutritious.
yeah, they're
Yep.
frozen food. Obviously, it's flash frozen,
Yeah.
so it's like garden peas. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's as nutrient rich as it can get. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Other than the fish going into the lake and getting it themselves and they die anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a really really good food, and just seeing how everything goes together and all that type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, it's really interesting. But
Here,
when you said I was saying before about sorry, go on, sorry,
here's a question: when feeding frozen, do you rinse your food or you just throw it in?
I just throw it in
Yeah, that's all I
because
do
I'm
too.
running low nutrients anyway.
Yeah.
But to be honest, has anybody actually? This is a question actually for the audience: is people that rinse their food?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever like measured your nutrient levels and then or have you even measured this sort of like the water, like what the nutrient levels are of the water, so to speak? Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is as well, and this is another thing, do you know blister packs? Do you know the
Mm-hmm.
little squares that you just pop out a little
Yep.
square? They're in essence 50-50. 50% water, 50% food. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason it is that is because the way that the food is basically injected
Mm-hmm.
into the square
Yep.
via water. So it can be 50-50, it could be 60-40, do you know what I mean? It could be whatever. Now, that food has gone through a process. Like some foods, like gamma irradiated and stuff like that. So again, they're not as nutritious as just straight up raw food, for
Mm-hmm.
example. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It's a convenience food, just like
For
flake and
sure.
pellet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a convenience food. It's something that's just nice and easy. Pop out a square, throw it in, done. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a little bit more of a nutrient content in the blisters in the squares,
Yep.
but for the size of them,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're running a nano or something like that, not even any point in rinsing it. Plus, it's just coral food. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
That's my outlook on it. Is basically all those little tiny particles that you're potentially rinsing on the raid is all free coral food. So you're feeding your fish, and all those little tiny bits is what's feeding your coral.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's got a purpose. Even fish poop
Yeah.
is coral food. So there's never been a better excuse, people, to get more corals in your tank. Because if you've got more corals in your tank, hey, you can get more fish, or you can feed more.
That is solid logic. Solid logic right there.
It's solid logic.
Yep.
But yeah, when you were saying about nitrates before, I was going to go down the route of feeding my tank more
Yep.
to up my nitrates. But I've been talking to the Triton guys
Mm-hmm.
about that, and they're saying is like nitrate isn't, because we see nitrate as one individual thing, nitrate, you know what I mean? But it's not. It's a bit more complex than that.
It is,
So
but
yeah, it is.
it's the
So go on.
the main place that would get into the tank is through the food, right? Or the fish eating food and pooping it out, right?
Yeah, but then there's additions to that as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
say for example, you've got low nitrates, but you've got high phosphates, and you're out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you're just adding to that. Do you know what I mean? Like, say for example,
Yeah.
this like flake food, for example, is renowned for being higher in phosphorus
Mm-hmm.
levels. So, if I was to feed up my tank to get my nitrates up, in this, for example, there's 0.42% of phosphorus in
Mm-hmm.
this, and then in another one is 0.48% of phosphorus.
Yep.
If you have a look at the foods that you've got there,
Yeah. So this is 0.75%.
yeah, so
But
that's higher than this, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
one
it is,
one
yeah.
point one percent in the flake, but it's still such a small amount. Like it's if you never did a water change over the long term, it would probably potentially be an issue. But if you do have a refugium and water change, like it's such a low amount that I don't think it is that big of an issue.
No, that's it. It
Yeah.
depends on the system, doesn't it? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I've just got basically nitrogen in a bottle
Mm-hmm.
um, from Triton because I'm not adding anything extra than what I need because I've just done one of those NDOC tests. Now they're not really that easy to understand at the moment. And
Oh,
the
did you get it back?
information. Yeah, I got it back. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ever so slightly out of balance with my nutrient level. So originally my nitrates were zero,
Mm-hmm.
and a test on the NDOC. So we worked out my result, and for me to be in balance, so the Redfield ratio, but again, there's something supposedly different with that as well, but we'll get into that. But say, for example, for argument's sake of the Redfield ratio, for me to be in balance with the way my levels are, I need to be running a nitrate level of 7.54 for me to be in balance.
Yeah.
Bad that, isn't it? You know what I mean? At 0, 7.54. So I need to get my nitrates up.
Yeah, there you go.
It's crazy, that, isn't it? So
if the one food potentially raises that, I don't know. At the end of the day, I still think like variety is the key, right? Like just instead of sticking to one food, just have a vary food and just mix it up once in a while. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you don't need to get things like this. You know what I mean? It's like you can definitely do it with food, but obviously you're adding other stuff as well to the system. And if you're fine with that, and if you can handle that with your filtration stuff, crack on. You know what I mean? It's perfectly fine. But yeah, I've got a little concoction that I feed.
What's your special blend?
This is my special blend. This is the special blend. So that mysis that we were talking about, I've got it in a liquid. So basically, it's a liquid feed. Doesn't need to be refrigerated or anything.
Hey, what's it called?
Same again, mysis RS.
Oh, check this out. I thought there's more than one. I thought it was cool with the Nios one because it didn't need to be refrigerated. I'm like, I could put that on a doser and automate.
Well, this is mysis, though, just like just like what you're used to with PE. So if you try putting this through a doser, one mysis will just block your doser.
Yeah,
they're not that big. They're huge.
Fair enough.
So I just throw that in. I throw some copepods in. So I just this is they're not live. This is a suspension copepod.
Nice.
So I throw a bit of that in, and then I throw some amino acids in. This is ornamarin, amine. Then I throw.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then I throw this one in, which is called Mines, and it's plankton, and it's also plankton extracts. So it's like a nice concoction of food for a fish and a coral, and I just put it in one tub, mix it around, wash.
That's a pretty good special blend.
So it's got a nice level of food from very, very small for with the plankton, amino acids, at that sort of like sugary level, and then you've got the copepods, which are a little bit larger for things like even my wrasse. And I have got mandarins, but if I had mandarins, if I had anthias go nuts for that, absolutely mental for that. And then obviously the larger wrasse and stuff like that can have the mysis. So and then the corals themselves, where the lobos can have the mysis. Then the like the FPS and stuff can get the copepods and stuff. So it's a nice blend.
Yeah, nice. That's pretty good. I do not blend as much as that, or if I do, it's not very often. It's like, you could have this one today, you could have this one tomorrow, I could have that one the next day. The one that I don't think we've talked about yet that I mix in maybe like once a week or something. I think it's called Canalus. It's like little orangey red things that come from like a lake in Switzerland or something like that, but super tiny, like a frozen food particle. And that one I find is a really good one for corals because it's such a small particle. He's running away. You probably have a bag that you're going to grab. What's going on, Woody? You totally are. I can hear it. 3, 2, 1. Orange frozen food. Yeah.
There you go. Calanus.
Oh, that's dried.
I feed Calanus as well, but it's frozen and I couldn't be bothered going to the freezer to
that's fair.
That I do.
Okay. Is it bright orange?
Bright orange, yeah. It's an Arctic plankton, basically. So I feed this as well. And this is a little bit larger than copepods. So again, you've just got a next step up in size-wise for whatever you've got in your tank. So you've got your Calanus, which is a nice, it's visible when you put it in your tank. It's probably, I'd say, maybe double the size of a copepod. Would you say? Yeah, and then so I've got that, but it's in the freezer. I've got a liquid version as well, but I like the freeze. I like frozen as much as possible.
Yeah, I do too. I'm a huge fan of frozen, so that's usually my one manual feeding at the end. Oh, so someone was just asking how are the flowers doing. There's 2 super tiny baby flowers in my tank. So excited. I have no idea if they are from my old rock flowers or if they're from the new ones. Maybe there's something, but there's 2 little super duper tiny flowers in there. So I was like, yes, I'm super stoked. Either way, I'm excited. Now, a big thing. Hey, your videos got better. All right. The pond connection sped up. So one big thing with baby rock flowers is you need to feed them a lot for them to make it until they get a bit bigger. So I've been trying to like target feed them on the nightly. And I ordered a little NEM box I'm gonna put in there so I can corral them and have them one little area so they're easy to feed. But yeah, stoked to see 2 babies in the tank so far. Every night I'm in there with my UV flashlight trying to see if more pop up. It's fun.
And I love rock flowers. I wanted to put a load of rock flowers into my shallow tank. I've just got a Magnifica Ritterai for it.
What is that?
And then I want to put some bubble tips and stuff. I want to put, predominantly anemones in there. I have got coral in there. I did a video on Sunday and I proper confused everybody. And it's my fault because I've got coral in there. But what it is I had a coral frag tank, but I shut it down and I put all the corals in there temporarily.
Yeah.
And not thinking when I've made the video. And that, you know what it's like. You know when you make a video and you just don't think about something.
You're editing, you're like, I missed that. Or you say the wrong word all the time. Yeah.
The comments start rolling in. It's like, you've skipped a stage. You've got corals in there. You haven't told us about it. Like, oh, they're not supposed to be in there. Not really. So yeah. I was supposed to take them out, put a video and put them back, but I just completely forgot. So I've got to put them back, take them out and put them where they're supposed to go. And then I can show you how to put proper mess that up.
That happens.
So in the next video, I've got to say, sorry about last week. They weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're funny. You probably just edit him in the wrong order and hit publish. Whoops, wrong one.
That's what I might do. I might say, oh, I'm sorry about that. I just released the wrong video. No, I can't now because I said it live on yours.
Yeah, I know. The results are you're not the father. Maybe I am. They're still my babies. Whether they came from me or another flower, they're still my babies.
I think they're really, really nice. I was dead jealous when you brought them on from Macron. I was thinking, should I try it? And I was like,
yeah.
No, because obviously you saw, didn't you? You was with me in the airport, weren't you, when we was going home?
Oh yeah.
Saw what that dog did to me, didn't you?
They probably stripped you and checked you.
Did you see what the dog did? The drug dog.
Did he get you?
Yeah. Honestly, when I go through customs, I panic because from the way I look, especially when I've got my beard, you know what I mean? Going to America, I always get stopped.
That's because you probably have a bunch of fish food and stuff in your pot because the dog's like, it smells good.
I don't think they're thinking fish food.
No, but the dog is. Yeah. He's like, food.
That's it. So when I was on my way home, that dog was going around in a square, wasn't it? Sniffing everybody's feet. And sniffing everybody's feet, going around, not a problem. Obviously, I'm already paranoid about the airport because I always get tucked to the side. You know, when I went to Baltimore, when I flew into Boston Airport, I got took away for an hour and a half. When I landed, you know, like I was waiting to be picked up and I got took away to a private section for an hour and a half.
Dang.
So obviously coming to America this year to Vegas, I was like, ooh. Same again in the English airport. I got, you know, pulled aside and all the scans and everything. So it's like, I'm a bit used to it now. But then when we were leaving, the dog was going round and round and round. Smelled my trainers, walked past me, stopped dead, did a double take and came back and then pinned on my feet. I was like,
and he looked at you, there's a sweat dripping down your face. You're like,
now imagine if I had a load of flipping coral in my bag. Oh my God.
Okay, you know what? Honestly, people ask all the time about bringing coral back. At least for me on the airplane, they cared more about the volume of liquid than about the coral. Like, it's like, that is 105 mils. You're over your limit by 5 mils because it has to be, for Canada at least, it's 100 mils or less. So basically, it has to be in one of those little pea cups in order to do it. And thankfully, they have lines. So make sure if you guys are ever bringing corals back Canada, make sure you're below that line of 100 mils. And then it's not a big deal. Unless it's macro.
So was that like softer corals? Like obviously you brought rock flowers. Like did you not SPS though?
No, I just bought zoas and flowers just to avoid the hustle.
Because SPS are under CITES, aren't they? So
yeah, you need to apply for a permit in order to get that, and it costs a bunch of money. So it's basically not worth it unless you're doing it in bulk. If you're doing it for just a handful of stuff, it's not worth it.
Yeah,
you got to be like dropping $1,000 on corals to half justify it.
I don't think you can actually get a CITES license from America to UK. So
Yeah, probably not worth it. But flowers isn't bad at all. So speaking of flowers and feeding, I've been trying to feed them like every single day. I'm trying to fatten them up and get them all healthy and ready to make babies. So I got 2 so far. I had this vision of the nano just covered in rock flowers, so it's gonna happen eventually. So I'm on a quest to get them to breed and spawn and make lots of babies. So it'll be good.
So I know you've put a video out on it, but I will only hands if I've not seen it.
Yeah.
What is it that you're doing to get them to breed and grow?
So
I thought the only way that you could get nems to become more nems is get them to split.
no, these ones don't split. They'll release their love juice into the water, and then the next one will be fertilized. And 6 weeks or so later, if you're lucky, little babies will come out. And when they come out, they're like literally the size of like a period in like a book. Like they're super duper tiny.
Right?
And it's probably a year before they're like a decent size. So it takes a while. It's probably at least a few months of target feeding them constantly to keep the babies going. But so I ordered a little box, a little nem box. I think it's like Ocean Design or something like that. Anyways, it's like a little 4-inch acrylic box with magnets. I can clip it on the side of the tank, and then eventually when I start getting them, I can corral my little babies and throw them in the box, and it's super easy to target feed them every night and make sure that they actually make it. So that's one of the big things. But for now, I'm just trying to. Partially, it is to do with moon cycles is a chunk of it. They also need very good water, and I know there's supposedly it's also benefit to feed a lot, so I've been trying all different types of food. So I got like the oyster feast is what I'm trying. I got the ReefDudes. I got some of the Nias ones. And then tiger feast. I'm gonna try this one tonight from Reef Nutrition. So I've been trying different things, just trying to see how they respond and which ones they're liking, and so lots of different stuff. But so experiments are in the works. I'm on a mission.
Nice.
It's gonna be the rock flower series in the making. It'll be good.
I definitely want to get some rock flowers for the shallow. To be honest, and it sounds weird, but I'm actually loving the shallow tank more than the big one.
Yeah.
It's just, I just love its depth. I love its dimensions.
It's all about the shallow reef, man. All about the shallow reefs.
Yeah, I remember when I first got the wife, and I spoke to the company who was making it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Nick Chan. I was speaking to Nick, and Nick was saying, you're better off going 27 inches high rather than 30 inches high.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. I want to be 30 inches high. I want a big, tall tank. And he's like, well, if you go, those extra 3 inches are going to cost you £100 per inch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so it's an extra 300 quid on top of the cost of the tank just for an extra 3 inches. I was like, all right, then I'll give that a miss. So glad I did, because dealing with a 27 tall tank, picking corals up, especially on a 44-inch tall cabinet, step ladders at the time, and it's a pain. So this now,
it's easy.
It's like,
so
you don't even have to pull the sleeve up.
If anyone is doing a custom tank, on my tank, I literally measured the floor to my armpit. I'm like, all right, that's as high as the tank is. So the rim is right there. So I could actually get my arm in without and I could actually reach the back of the tank and all that type of stuff. So if you're short, get a shorter stand or a shorter tank. If you're taller, get away with more. But like armpit height, seriously, then you don't have to worry about standing on stuff. It just makes your life so much easier. And shallow, when you can reach and move stuff around without, diving into your tank, it makes life a lot easier, which is good.
It's made me look forward to my new tank a lot more now.
Yeah.
Because obviously I'm downsizing the wife to a 4 by 2.5 foot deep by 2 foot tall.
So is this like the tiny wife, or what's the new one?
This is the third wife.
The third one.
I'm down. Yeah. I'm
Scandalous.
Scandalous. I've got a big bird now. Going for a small model.
Yeah.
But it's like, I was a bit, should I do it or not? Big tank and all that. But so many limits. Like, it's great having a big tank, don't get me wrong. But there's so many limitations to a big tank. Actually, you probably know. Water changing. Say for example, if you have a bit of an issue and you need to, do a relatively large water change to, to help counteract it, it's super difficult to do it with a tank like this.
Exactly.
200 litre barrel is, is not even much of a dent. I think that's, so it's just a small dent to the tank. So it's not doing anything. Look
at my 20-gallon nano. If I had an issue in the tank, a 5-gallon water change is 25%. It's easy, right? It's like a massive water change takes you 2 minutes. Like, there's a lot of the little tanks are easy. I don't know why everyone thinks big tanks are easier. They're all easy. Okay, so I went at Hot Ashes, Aaron's Aquarium. What equivalent do we have in the UK to American Roddy Feast and ROE eggs by Reef Nutrition? So it's rotifers and oyster eggs by Reef Nutrition. Do they have that in the UK, or do you have an alternative?
Who's it by? Reef Nutrition.
Yeah, Reef Nutrition is who makes it for North America.
Combined, I don't know.
Okay.
You can buy like lobster eggs and rotifers as individual packs, frozen packs, but combined, I don't know of anything. They might well, but I've never heard of it. Like, can't help you there, mate. I've never heard of a combined version.
Not combined. He just wants to know like what is the UK equivalent. If he wants these foods but can't get the Reef Nutrition brand, what do you guys have over there that's similar? So
Obviously, I'm going to say my company. Huh?
yeah, but you can say yours plus others. What all do you know of?
Oh, is this the BBC? Is it? Other products that are available.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know if Ocean Nutrition do it, but they might have. But you've got obviously BC UK, the company that I work for. BC UK do products like that as well, and I assume like Ocean Nutrition will do because that's the company that's available in the States as well. And then
Yeah.
so something like that.
Victoria Brewer filling a bucket with RODI. Who wants to bet it's sitting here next to the bucket till fill your kitchen? Okay. When I first started reefing, I have flooded so many buckets until I learned my lesson. Put a float valve on absolutely everything. And if you want a nice, easy one, Auto Aqua, XP Aqua, I think it's XP Aqua. They make their little Flood Guardian. It's a little solenoid with a little optical sensor. You can put on any container and it'll kill the connection to the solenoid so it doesn't overflow. Buy one of the two. It will save you heaps. And then you don't need a vacuum to clean it up because you prevented it.
Well, I brought my RO unit inside now because I had a big shed, didn't I, especially for making RO water. But because I'm downsizing, I don't need to make anywhere. I can make 25 liters, which I think is 5 gallons, in 3 hours. So I can very easily just make the water that I need when I need it.
Okay.
Well,
so you're saying in 3 hours, and in the comments, Jay was just saying he's making water right now using a timer. So if you know how much it takes to do a gallon, you could like set an alarm on your watch or your phone or whatever and check it. But there's still a chance you'll get distracted and forget about it. Kevin was just saying Flood Guardian rocks. I 100% agree for the 60, 70 bucks that is. I think that's an amazing product. And if you're even cheaper, you can spend 10 bucks and buy a float valve and mount on your bucket with a quick connect, and then that's another level. Or do both if you want to be extra hardcore like me. But float valves on absolutely everything. After flooding my floor like 3 or 4 times, I finally learned my lesson. Then my big brute thing has a float valve. My little 5-gallon, my nano has a float valve. My 15-gallon for the big tank has one. I walk up, just plug in my little connector and walk away. If I forget about it, not an issue. So 100% do that. Otherwise, it will. The marriage saver is appropriate name. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, because I've now, let's say I filled 5 gallon buckets. Of those 5, I think I've overflowed 3.
Yeah.
And then this comes out. It's like, oh no, quick before I get caught.
Oh, I know. Fireplace cranked, fans on, evaporate, shop vac, sucking it all up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I like that one that you were saying though. That is it by Auto Aqua?
Auto Aqua. I have one. They're awesome. It's for.
You got one?
Yeah, no, it's great. I don't know. It's cheap enough that everyone should just have one. It just saves issues.
I might do it because I've got the Auto Aqua Smart ATO. That little one.
How do you like it?
I've had it for 2 years.
Is it good?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Nice.
It's never missed a beat. Never. In 2 years, I've never had an issue with it.
Perfect. Love it.
Brilliant.
One of my buddies has, I think it's the smart one, same one you have, and he seems to really like it. And then the only product I have from them is the Flood Guardian. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. Wife saver, marriage saver, Flood Guardian. But yeah, that works really well. This is like a contingency backup. I still have the float valve, but if it ever, some reason it doesn't stop it or ever breaks, then you got that to kill the water flow.
I've just got a new one, which is like, I've got it unbranded. I think a couple of companies have branded it up. I've got it unbranded, and it's in the shallow reef because it has like how best to say it, like a wave sensor.
Oh yeah.
So obviously when the water drops, normally the RO would kick in.
Mm-hmm.
But this has like a bit of a delay. So if you've got like a wave maker in, so if it's in a display like mine is, and the water's going up and down, it it knows, so it doesn't deliver the water. Do you know what I mean? But then when obviously the water drops and it hasn't come back on for
Mm-hmm.
everything, it then deliver the water. So it's pretty good.
Nice.
No audio alarm in it though, which is
Ah,
the one side to it.
well,
So
fair.
it's like at
Okay.
the moment it's flashing now, so it's not, it's off, but I don't know enough to see it.
Okay. Comment from Jay. What's the saying? Everything fails within 10 years. Twice. Okay, so if you guys saw any of my talks or anything, I am like a huge component of having a backup for your backup. Like I always say that because something will fail. That's why if you have like your contingency backup for it, then it kind of keeps you covered if one piece fails and you still got something. So always back up your backup. Long term, it will save you. You'll thank me in like 5 years. You'll be like, ah, that was a good tip. You're welcome.
Nobody ever notices that until something goes wrong. That's how it
Exactly.
is.
Right?
When you back up your backup, it's like, oh, it is what it is. It's just working. But that day when it goes wrong,
Yep.
that's when it comes.
That's when it pays for
It's like,
itself. It's like on my motorcycle. Completely different analogy. Like I have a skid plate on my motorcycle, and every time I hit a big rock, I'm like, ah, just paid for itself again.
yeah. Otherwise, you got a big hole in your engine.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then,
Yeah.
and actually, one time, completely off topic, but I dropped my bike and it cracked the oil cover. So I literally had to like get my bike towed back with like a tie strap to home. That was the interesting day. But same thing. Now I have freaking big engine guard covers on the side of it. But if I would have had that, would have been fine. So it's just preventative because something will happen eventually.
Yeah.
I can see your little turtle in the background climbing out.
Look, you see,
Yeah,
see her. I just found out actually, they was originally called Michelangelo and Raphael, but now they're called Rachel and Monica.
nice. Do you feed them veggies or do you feed them fish food?
I feed them fish food. That frozen food that I was just telling you about. Um, there's another, like we've got another food which basically when it defrosts, it doesn't break apart. It has a consistency of wet bread.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you get bread wet, it
Yep.
still stays as a piece of bread, but it's like floppy and malleable.
Yeah.
The company that I work for has got a frozen food that stays in that consistency. So it's
Interesting.
got mites in it, copepods in it, calanus in it,
Mm-hmm.
whitefish in it, all of these different things. But the turtles are obviously very messy eaters, and it's great for them because they can just chomp down on it like a piece of bread, but they're getting, you know, some really, really good foods. They love it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love it. It's a really good one, yeah.
Nice. That's
So I
awesome.
just make the fish food.
Nice. Do it. I wonder if they'd appreciate nori. You should try feeding them nori.
You know, to be honest, I've tried feeding them veggies in general, lettuce,
Yep.
broccoli, all this. They're not interested. Not
No.
interested at all. No.
When I feed the tank nori, my dog always comes up and he makes his piggy sound when he wants food. He's like, "Brr, brr, 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 brr." I know. I'll rip him off a little piece and he's all happy and goes away. Cracks
Does
me
he
up.
like it? Is he?
Oh yeah, he loves it. Oh, he's sleeping right now, so he won't care. But he's on the floor, passed out beside me. But yeah, no, he comes over and just whenever I do that. And then one time, actually, I think I had a package of PE mysis pellets, and he got into it and just devoured it. I'm like, there's something
Oh,
in there. It was like cracked on me. He's like, bah, it's all gone.
do that.
Yeah, like that.
That's my dog. My dog. My if I leave my cabinet, my fish cabinet open, that's
Rated.
it. I've lost my fish food. That's it. He's all over food.
Yep.
And I know he's eating the fish food before I've even seen the broken thingies, because when I walk in, he squints, he smiles, and it's like, what have you done?
That was
He gives
good.
himself away straight away.
Oh, really? Mine would like hide around the corner because he know we did something bad. Complete opposite. He's like, do do do. When I don't see him run to the door, I'm like, what's he into?
Yeah, that's it.
It's
You're going
fun.
Niagara Coral Show, aren't you?
Heck yeah. It's in 10 days. Are you coming? Are you making the journey to come visit? All the way from the UK? No? You should.
Can't afford it.
I'm doing a
I can
talk.
only afford one show per year, and I've not decided yet which show that will be.
All right. Well, the two that I have planned so far, in 10 days, I'll be at the Niagara Coral Show, and I'm doing a talk. So if you're there, come check it out. And after that, we'll be Keep on Reefing in Rhode Island. And that's in May the 4th.
And I was actually going there.
Ah?
I
What
was
do you
going to
mean
go.
were? Are
because I spoke to Scott, and Scott was like, "Yeah, come down." Obviously, you know Scott. Yeah,
yeah,
come down, come down. You know what I mean? He's like, "Come down, yeah, I'll be stoked to see you." And all that. So like, it looks like it's going to be fun because obviously the energy that Scott puts out,
huge.
you
That
know, you
Scott
could
bounces
literally be
around. He
in a
has so
room.
much energy.
You could be in a white room with nothing in it, and you could have fun with it, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm like, and he was saying like, you know, it's not like a Machna or anything like that. You're nothing of that scale. And I was like, well, obviously I'm coming from the UK, so we don't have anything anyway. So anything from nothing is better than nothing. So I'm going to come. So I said to my wife, I went, I'm going to go over to New England for the weekend for the coral show because it's only one day as well, isn't it? And a friend of mine, Mass Aquariums, he lives in Massachusetts, so I was going to fly into Boston,
Yep.
go and see him, and then both of us was going to drive down because it's only down the road. It's only an hour away. Drive down, do the show, go back to his, go back to Boston, go home. Boom.
Nice.
And then I sent it to my wife, and she was like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Yeah."
There goes that
like,
fun.
No, it's not that. She would normally. It's like, yeah, you know what I mean. If I want to do stuff like this, it's fine. But it's my 10-year anniversary.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was a show last weekend in Seattle, Reefstock, and I was thinking about going, but it was my wife's birthday yesterday, so I'm like, I should probably stay home this weekend.
Yeah.
Yep.
10-year wedding anniversary, and I'm flipping planning to go to New England. It's like, yeah, I think I better stay home.
Yeah, exactly. Wise man. As much as I love the hobby, I mean, happy wife, happy reef life, I guess.
That's it.
Yeah. Scott's so much taller in person.
Is it? How big is it?
Actually, one of my old Facebook photos with me and him and Lou from Worldwide Corals. I gotta see how tall he is relative to me now. You got me curious.
What are you, 6'1", 6'2"?
6'1". Michael, how tall are you?
Well, we don't need to talk about
that. Cue it.
Everyone does the opposite with me. Everyone, when they see me, they go, "Oh, you look bigger on your videos."
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. Where's that photo? I'm curious to see how tall he is now. I don't know why I'm curious, but I am.
I want to do Reeferpalooza, but the Orlando one just falls too soon for me because that's only a couple in it. And the New York one is too cold.
Oh, there you go. Oh yeah, Scott is pretty tall. Sorry. Yeah, I think he's probably similar to me. We're both bent down pretty good for the photo.
And then I don't know where the other ones are. Is it? Where's the other Reeferpalooza? Oh, there's one in California, isn't
there? Yes. Eventually, I'll have to try and make them to each one of them. It'd be good. Ryan, I'll see you keep on reefing. Excellent. Reef the Kids going to be at the Niagara Coral Show. Extra awesome. So if you guys are going to the shows, make sure you come say hi because it's pretty awesome. It's if you haven't went to, actually, okay, completely sidetracked, but if you guys have not went to a reefing show, it's 100% go to it and check them out. They're so much fun. You're in like a room with everyone that's just obsessed with you are, and it's just always a ton of fun meet and hang out with everybody. So 100% recommend it.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
You almost lost a finger, didn't you?
Yeah, really got me that time. It was a bit faster than the normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So someone K&A Reefing question about the show. Am I able to buy corals and bring them back across the border? Okay. So my basic understanding for Canada, which I'm assuming is probably the same in reverse, is non-reef building corals is fine. So zoas, rock flowers, anemones, all that stuff is fine. Leathers. It's SPS. That majority of it. So majority of SPS are on the CITES list. And now you're not supposed to bring the CITES stuff across without a permit. So if you just stick to like rock flowers, zoas, softies, not an issue. Just avoid the acros. Just to save yourself the hassle. I'm so lazy. I haven't been to Live Aquarius Diver Den. It's 3 hours away from me. It'd be cool to check it out. I'd go check that out one day. So
I love it with Americans. Like 3 hours, like as he said, it's like 3 hours drive. It's nothing to you. Like if I was to ask a Brit to drive an hour to a shop or a show or something like that, it's too far. You know what I mean? And like 3-4 hour drives are just box standard. For some of you in certain states, just going to the shop is like 20-30 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm very spoiled in the UK because like you can get from one end of the UK to the other in like 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those where, yeah, when I see Americans say it's only 3 hours or it's only 4 hours, it's mind blowing.
To them, they'd be like, "Nope, not leaving the house."
No,
Yeah,
not doing that.
it's worth it. Like honestly, if anyone hasn't went to a show, it's just such a fun atmosphere. Like for me, I had just a blast meeting so many people I talk to online. Like even Michael, like hanging out with you. I see you on video all the time, but actually hang out in person, just tons of fun. So it's worth it. And it's
I
just
think that was the best thing about Macna for me was just meeting everybody. You know, just
yep.
being on the floor. I didn't really, like, because it was very overwhelming the full show, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really speak to, and I definitely didn't film very many vendors
Yep.
because all the time I was there, it was talking to hobbyists, talking to other YouTubers, stuff like that, and it was just awesome. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember at one point, it took me 40 minutes to get from one side
Yep.
of the room to the other. It's
Yep.
brilliant. I
Okay.
loved it.
This is
Such
gonna
a nice
sound funny, but I know half you can relate. So if you are talking like most people that like their tank have a bit of an obsession, and you know you do, and usually if you're trying to tell all your excitement to your non-fish friends, or I'm like not this again, right? When you're at a show or convention, everyone's just as obsessed with you are, and they love hearing about it. And you can just totally geek out on all kinds of random stuff. And I know you can probably relate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love it.
I
Love it.
know.
Absolutely love
I'm
it.
like, I'm sure I'm not the only one. This has to be a common thing.
It's just brilliant, just all of it, you know what I mean? Like, just all of these celebrities, you know, they're just there. You know what I mean? It's like Ryan from Bulk Reef Supply
Yeah.
was there. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
he's there. That's it. He's real. And I'm not somebody that really geeks out when I see celebrities. I'm not somebody that, oh look, there's, Brad Pitt or whatever, I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah.
But like I know when I saw Ryan from Bulk Resupply, because that channel has been such a heavy influence on me.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a great channel for helping me learn and stuff like that. I just had to go over and it's sort of like I had to shake his hand. Now he's probably like, "What you doing? Who are you?" You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I need to shake your hand. I need to shake your hand. So it was just one of those. But I think that's the only time where I've actually sort of like proper geeked out with a stranger.
That's awesome. Okay, I think sometime in the next few weeks we should do a stream just on the whole obsession and part of it. That could be a whole entertaining conversation on its own.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Love it. What's going on, Rookie Reefer? Haven't seen you in a while. Welcome, buddy. Guys, I didn't flood the house. Excellent. Nice work there, Victoria Brewer. I have a question. Is Victoria Brewer for beer? Is this the hops brewing we're talking about here?
Brewer?
Yeah. I'm curious. Yeah. Not flooding the house is always a win. Sick of hearing about the show. She's paying me to shut up now. Oh, it's great. I know. It's true. The struggle is real. This is a safe place of addicts. It's going to be like Reef Addicts Anonymous live stream coming up. 1 week, we're going to do it just for fun.
This is where you can come and it's like DC Reefers Reef Church.
Yeah, exactly.
Just go on and just say it as it is.
Yeah. First step is admitting you have a problem. I am addicted to coral. I can never have enough, and there's always room for one more. Amen. Yeah, it's so true, eh? Oh, love it. Nope, just my name. Okay, fair enough.
It doesn't matter how they're going to grow out. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. There's another space there. I can see it.
Mm-hmm. So awesome. What's going on, Exclusive Reef? Welcome. Falcon, welcome, guys. If anyone, just because we are totally off tangent, if anyone does have some questions around feeding corals or fish or making your own food or live or not live or anything, shoot, let us know, because we're totally off tangent now. Huh?
For you. Here's a question for you and for people in the chat, actually. Yeah. Who target feeds corals and who broadcast feeds corals? Just in the chat, just write target or broadcast. Okay. Let us know what you do.
All right.
Which one?
I'll tell you what I do once I see a few responses.
Right, okay.
Okay. I'll tell you right now. Anyways, I'm waiting. We got 30 seconds delay. Okay. So 80% of the time is broadcast. Broadcast is my daily basic. I'll do a couple squirts for the fish, and then once I'm down to the last bit, I'm like, man, just let it go everywhere in the tank. And then I will target or feed probably like once a week, maybe. Lately, I've tried a bit more. Supposedly, certain corals, like acants, for instance, will color up more when you feed them. So I'm starting to directly feed them like once or twice a week. But broadcast feed is majority of it.
I'm saying I just broadcast.
Yeah. If you
I
guys
think
are
they're
target
going.
feeding, that little Julian's thing, that thing's super handy. It's the weird little syringe needle and a big hose and a tube. You could probably make one for like super easy, but awesome little tool for target feeding. Makes your life easier. The tip's way too small. I just cut it with scissors so it's bigger and I can shoot mice out at stuff. But quick tip.
50-50 broadcast, both. 50-50, both.
Yeah.
Everybody mostly does both.
Yeah.
K and A tag.
So James,
Markings.
anyone else throttle feeding based on glass growth? I'm assuming that means based on how often you have to clean the glass. I don't know really. I probably use my little algae scraper like every other day probably. But it's also going to depend on what else you have for nutrient export. If you have a refugium that's rocking it, and you're going to have to feed less. Like I know since I put the little prime on my tank, the prime fuge, my nitrates have went way down. Like within a couple of weeks, they were like 0.15 to like 0.03, like huge dent in it. So now I'm like, I can feed more now. So
That's what I was like when I put my refugium light on. It's just, obviously I'm at 0. Obviously I've got this machine now, I had to do my water tests.
How do you like the reef bot or whatever it's called? Is it reef bot? What's it called?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, reef bot. Yeah, it's been brilliant. It's there's been a few kinks with it, which I've been ironing out with a company. Still silly things like just the instructions that they deliver. There's stuff in it that might not need to be in it, and there's stuff in it that isn't elaborated on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I've just worked out a few kinks with them, just on rewording the instructions. But other than that, yeah,
Nice.
I'm currently doing my KH every day at 3:00. No matter where I am, my KH gets tested every day at 3:00 without fail. And then I've got my nitrates set to dose every Sunday at 12. So, on the Sunday, I'll test my nitrates at 12. I'll test my KH at 3. And then once I get some more test kits, I've just not bought anymore yet. I'll probably stick maybe phosphate in there because that's something that you want to be keeping an eye on, just like your KH, really.
Yep.
And then maybe calcium or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good.
Nice.
It's good.
Awesome. Okay, so ReefDudes is asking, use the elk monitor, which one? So Michael, the one he's talking about is called the Reef Bot, and it's one where I believe you can use almost any titration-based test kit you want in it. As long as it's liquid, no powders, because it uses a little syringe to mix into it. I'm using the Alcatronic on my tank, and that one I have it testing every 12 hours. So 7 a.m., 7 p.m. it tests my tank. I get a little pop up on my phone or my watch and says, boop, your elk is this. I'm like, thank you. So that's what I've been rocking.
Does that thing monitor and maintain?
Yep.
Or does it just,
I'm not using it to maintain. I'm only using mine to monitor since I'm doing the calcium reactor. And then I have the Kimura pump, which is super duper easy to adjust by like a mil if you want. So if my elk is trending up or down, I can walk up, go bloop, and just tweak the Kimura, and I'm good to go again. Now, another interesting way, my buddy Brad, who was in the chat, I think he still is, All Day Reef, on he's using his to do little top-off doses. So he has all his doser set, and he'll go look at the log, and if he sees, okay, I dosed 10 mils of alkalinity this week, then he'll use that to say, okay, I need to up my alkalinity, my calcium, and he'll up everything on his doser by 10. So use it, basically tell him how much he needs to tweak his doser. Well, I thought it's a kind of interesting way to do it.
Well, that's what I've been doing with the Reef Bot, because I've got the eCoral doser. Obviously, it's cloud-based, so you can change the dose from wherever you are in the world.
Yeah.
So when I get my results to my phone, if the alkalinity is changed, then I can just very easily just log into the EK dose and just change the dose. Nice. You know what I mean? So I can keep on top of my levels in America if I want. So that's cool.
Perfect. So ReefDudes.
See, I'm becoming one in the boys. You know what I mean? I'm becoming a techno guy now. Do you know,
look at you getting all fancy schmancy.
An aquarium controller at one point. You know what I mean?
You have been anti-controller since I've met you, and now I think you're coming. You're gonna have one by the end of the year. I can see it in your eyes. I can see the glimmer.
I don't know yet. I don't know.
You were
Maybe.
glowing because you could adjust your doser from outside the house. The controller's coming.
Yeah.
And you have an automated
I think,
tester. It's
I think this
logical.
reebok's going to be the catalyst. I think this is going to be the changer.
You're like, what? Automation makes my life easier? Heck yeah. Okay. So Reese5 is asking, can you interface with the Elkatronics that have an SDK? Okay. So they have on the side, there's a BNC port to kind of output the signal. And I have that hooked up to one of the pH ports on the Apex. And this works with eCoral or any controller that has a pH port. And you can basically get that to output the value of your elk. So I just rename mine from pH to elk, and then I have it shows on the Apex. Now they are having, so it will dose just elk itself. So it only doses elk. So it can just test, and if you want it to dose, it can do that. They're coming out with a new thing that's not out yet, but it's coming out soon called the Dosetronic, which is a 5-head dosing head that can link up to it, and it can do all of your dosing based on the elk. It has algorithms for all kinds of different dosing systems. So it's that. So they don't necessarily have an open SDK, but they output the signal of what the value is, and they'll have their own dosing product that can interface and do all your stuff with it. Actually, now that's actually a question on the ReefBot. Does it output the readings? Can you interface with it with other stuff, or is it just its own standalone? How's that one work?
Yeah, but I have spoken to him, and it is open. Like, is it open SDK or open source anyway?
Yep.
So I think it'll just be the case of somebody doing that, either themselves or somebody else.
Yep.
Marrying it up, because it would work very, very well, because you would be dosing based on actual results. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be interesting if they did. It's Wi-Fi enabled, so I can, it's not like, say, certain, when you get certain like Chinese lights where you have to connect to the Wi-Fi that's on board the device, you can't put it through the router. So this is actually connected to the router. They're even able to access it from Lebanon, because I've had them mess about with a few things inside, because I think, what did I do? I did something with a Wi-Fi, me being the techno genius that I am. I did something with a Wi-Fi and messed it up.
Nice.
So they was in Lebanon, they was able to do a few things and fix it. So yeah, so it's who knows what the future holds. I like the fact that it's like a hobbyist type machine, because they're not using their own reagents to try and cream more money out here, if you know what I mean. It's like, they'll give you a machine and said, if you've got some Saltwater, throw them in. You know what I mean? If you've got some purple ponds, throw them in. You know what I mean? What I do, just throw them in.
Which
Obviously,
is kind of cool.
Like, only liquid ones. But,
It's still a good chunk of stuff that you can do with it.
My biggest concern was the nitrate, because it uses API. So API is not supposed to be that renowned for being accurate. So I asked the question, like, what's the script with this? And they said, well, basically the reason why API has its inaccuracies is because bottle 2 needs to be shaken a lot. If you don't shake it enough, it will give you inaccuracies, and it does actually say that in the API instructions, that if you don't shake bottle 2 enough, it'll give you inaccuracies. But this machine's got a magnetic stirrer in it, and when it gets to bottle 2, it stirs it for about over a minute.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Is there a magnetic stir in each of the reagent bottles?
Yes, there's a magnetic stir in
everything.
Yeah, even in the cleaning vial. So what it does is, because it uses the same needle for everything. It's very meticulous. So a test takes a while. So it's not just a case of, I'm just going to do a quick test. It's like, say, for example, alkalinity test takes about 35 minutes. So what it does is, before it even starts doing a test, it rinses the test vial. So basically, it has one vial which fires a bit like a Hana. It fires a light through and it reads a color. You know what I mean? So it does that. So it cleans that three times, first of all. And then it goes over to the cleaning chamber, which is this glass vial, and it cleans the needle 3 times before it even starts a test. And then it goes and picks up the first reagent, so your indicator solution, drops that into the testing vial, Then it goes back to the cleaning station, cleans the needle again 3 times,
Nice.
then goes over to your reagent and starts doing your drops.
Cool.
So what it does is just put your drops in,
Mm-hmm.
and then it keeps dropping until the needle's empty.
Yep.
And it monitors the colours all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you get a chart of colours,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see when the colour changed, you know, yourself, if you wanted to manually look at it, you can see when the colour changed,
Mm-hmm.
and see if it's, you know, if it's got the same result as you. And
So, okay.
you know, it's,
I just had an interesting thought, because you're talking about how like that one test gets not the most accurate in the world unless you shake it a ton. So at the end of the day, the secret to reefing is basically keeping your parameters stable. So even if the reading was off a little bit, it doesn't really matter as long as it's consistently off, right?
yes,
So, and the beauty of having an automated tester is it tests identical, exact same way every single day. So
yes,
that's one of the keys. So like for a good chunk of it, like who cares what the number is? Just look at the trends. Is it going up or is it going down? You know, like for nitrates, am I feeding too much? Should I feed less? Your alkalinity, you know, if it's going upwards, okay, I need to lower my dose for a bit. Or if it's dropping, okay, my corals are growing and they're absorbing more, so it's time to give a little more juice. At the end of the day, like even if you're like the worst tester, yet your test's way off, just as long as it's consistent, like be consistent with how you do it. And that goes a huge way for, you know, yourself or automated. Just, you know, make sure you're testing the exact same mark on the thing every day. If it's like even those little syringes, is your plunger at the top of the line, the bottom of the line, like all these little things, just be consistent with how you do it. Biggest thing, consistency.
and that's a good thing about it is
Yep.
it's because it's robotic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like say for example, if we're doing, you know, we're stirring away, we're swishing it around, and we're dropping our drops in, but we press a little bit too hard on the plunger, and it's a bigger drop than, you know, before, then potentially we're getting a little bit of an inaccurate reading. So you could potentially do 3 tests in a row using a Saltwater by hand, and could potentially get variations in each result because you may have pressed harder or softer on each test when you've been doing the drops. Whereas because this is mechanical and it's a robotic arm and it's programmed to go, it's the same every time. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's got that level of, like you said, consistency. So like you said, even if it was testing, the only limitation is what's in it. So it's limited to the test kit itself. So the nitrate, for example, I'm currently running a nitrate of 3. But the nitrate test on the API only tests 0 or 5.
Yep.
So basically, that will return your result. So I've got 3, so it's been giving me a result of 0. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I'm not getting a thingy. But when I had my nitrates at 5, but it's come back down again. So weird this that I'm actually going down now. But yeah, when it was at 5, it nailed it. Nailed 5, but now it's dropped down to 3. It's giving me a reading of 0. So that's the only downside to this machine, is it's limited to what it uses. So it's limited to the test kits themselves.
Which is a strength and a disadvantage, because I mean, at the same time, it gives you flexibility. If you don't like one kit, if you can find another one that's titration based, then you could try a different one out. Exclusive suggestions on raising nitrates. I feed frozen food and pellets now 3 times a day to raise it, but it's still at 0. Skimmer off at nights also. So yes, there is a nitrate in a bottle that Michael's pointing at very excitedly. I'm assuming it's one of your products.
No, it's not Triton.
No? Oh, it's Triton? Okay.
I don't work for Triton. I'm not even, so just to be clear, I don't work for Triton. I've never been sponsored by Triton. I paid for this with my own hard-earned cash. I'm not promoting it because I'm paid or anything like it. It's just because this is what I'm using to raise my nitrate stocks.
I'm not going to recommend this, but I know another buddy was dosing some like stump remover or something to do nitrates. That seems a bit sketchier because who knows what's in it. Pure stuff in a bottle that's made for a fish tank is probably your safer bet. But me personally, I would just dump in more food and give more food to the fish and corals. Like, I know if you guys seen like the BRS WWC videos where they feed like every hour to the tank, like crazy amounts of food. So, you know, it just looks at me being like, yeah, like when, like if you think about like you like Exclusive saying he feeds 3 times a day now, they feed like 8. So you could literally just add more food and, you know, you'll probably get some awesome coral growth and coloration if they give them some more nutrients. So it's something to consider. I mean, if you work from home, obviously a lot easier. If you're not home, aside from an auto feeder, it's probably about as far as you're going to get. But
yeah, I'm dosing 3 mil a day at the moment of this. I've only just done my first test, first dose today. I did a test actually. I did a nitrate test today, manually, because I could have done it on there, but I just ended up doing it on here. I did a manual test of the Saltwater nitrate because obviously I thought I was at 3, but I'm actually back up to 5 now. So if I was to use that, I should get a reading of 5.
How do you find the Saltwater nitrate test? Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it. It's like any titration based test. It can be difficult to read, color wise. But because I'm currently hovering between 5 and 0,
that's so low.
It's quite easy to distinguish it's either there's no color or there is. You know what I mean? So it's pretty easy. It's like as clear as gin, or there's a little pink tinge to it.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's easy that way.
So question, what do you like to have your nitrates at? Like, what do you target?
7.54.
All right, fair enough. Thank you. That's very precise. That's very precise. I go for 10 to 20 range. So J's API.
No, I know that that's exactly what I need to be targeting, because that's what I need to be in balance.
With phosphates?
Well, that's what with phosphates, and carbon as well. Because the new NDOC from Triton does your carbon, your phosphates, and your nitrogen to give you a red field ratio, so to speak. So I need to be at currently 7.54 nitrate to be in balance.
Oh, there you go. So what's your phosphates then? 0.1?
Phosphates as, I think it's, carry on talking, I'll have a look.
All right, fair enough.
I'll look at my Triton.
API for only nitrate though, elk, calc, mag, all Red Sea. Okay, Red Sea is honestly biggest bang for your buck, I find, if you need like basic test kits, because they have their nice little kit that has all the little syringes and titrators and all that jazz. And it's, if you look at the price per test, it's, I don't know, I find it one of the better bangs for your buck. I still like Hannah the best for elk because I like having a number. Yeah, like and phosphate. The calcium one is the new kit from them is better because they have that little titration doser. It's like exact amount, which solved a lot of people's issues. So it's better, but I still find the refills are up there in price.
So PO4, according to the Triton, is 0.0078795.
I don't think you can test that accurately. Braveheart.
That's the Triton.
Okay, they can. You can. I'll like never be able to agree with that. Okay, so someone said the NIOS nitrate test kit is easy to read. I have heard that actually. A few people said that their kits are really easy to read. I've never tried them. One day I'll have to try them. But that's my biggest complaint with most of the brands is you can't tell the color difference. Like Saltwater and some phosphates, I'm like, is it this blue or that blue that are like so close? And I don't know. I can't read them for the life of me, some of them. So easy to read goes a long way.
Definitely.
Exclusive Aquaforest test kits. I didn't even know they made test kits. Good to know.
Where is it? Am I sharing my screen?
Yeah, you are now. I saw it on mine. It's like you're screen sharing. It's like I am. Okay. So that's your NDOC?
No, that's my ICP.
Okay.
My NDOC. See, the NDOC's a bit. It's not that easy to read. Let's have a look. So the NDOC there, so mostly everything's in green apart from TNB, which I forget what it's called. But basically I was told, so this is my NO3. So my nitrates basically need to be two-thirds of this number. So that works out at 7.54.
There you go.
So that's where my nitrates need to be to get the balance. So
do you plan on dosing nitrates to keep it there?
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So the good thing is I'm dosing to maintain rather than trying to fight to keep it down. Stop it from going up. I'm actually able to just put something in to get it where it's. So I've got a little bit more control over my nitrates than, if I was trying to bring it down. You know what I mean? So, so it's I'll see how it goes dosing this liquid solution, and if it's as easy as it seems to be, then wicked. You know what I mean? Should be
Yeah.
able to nail it.
Nice. I was just joking. Aki TV, he was at ReefWorks and he does his reefing channel in Spanish. And he's like, "Oh, I'll be uploading it with Spanish subtitles, though." I'm like, I've actually was laughing because I've had my wife. I'm like, "Hey, translate this," as he was doing a live stream one time.
Can your wife speak Spanish?
Yeah, she's from Ecuador. She's fully fluent in Spanish and English. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, I've been slowly learning Spanish, but I'm gonna slacker because I have a translator. I should have learned it by now. I agree. I really should. I got to get back on that. I was on it lots, and then I've been slacking.
I always see him when he pops up on Instagram. He pops up on Instagram, and he just when he's doing his like live streams or whatever on Instagram, it's like he's so enthusiastic and his speech is so fast. It's like this sounds like it's so interesting, and I've got no clue what he's saying.
I know. I'm like, babes, quick, translate. What's he saying? And then I'm like, okay, respond with this for me. I gotta type it. I've done that a few times. Oh, that's great. Love it. All right, I think I'm probably gonna call her for the day, though, guys. We're totally off topic, but it's been a good stream. Thanks for coming and joining, Michael. It was fun.
No problem.
It was definitely good. Everybody in the chat, thanks for coming to hang out with us and learning about feeding fish corals and testing your water now. You're adding nutrients, good to test for them. It all relates. Can I speak French Canadian? I sure can't. I got nothing in French other than like the basics from like middle school back in the day. I know more Spanish than I do French, although they are similar. If you know one, you could probably understand the other to a certain extent. Had an ex spoke different languages. I don't know how to spell it. Yeah, I was terrible at spelling. Okay, completely random. But when I was in high school, I took Spanish, and I could speak it to an extent, but I couldn't spell it for the life of me. So I had to ace the speaking parts, and I'd do like barely scrape by on the spelling because I'm a terrible speller in English, so I had no hope in Spanish. But it's being immersed in it it's good. So I should actually get my wife to teach me more. Then I can understand Aki TV streams.
Especially when you got it right there in front of you.
I know. I have like an in-house teacher. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. If you did, smash that thumbs up button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, and we'll see you.
Say goodbye to Rachel.
Bye, Rachel the turtle.
Bye, Rachel. I'm gonna have to wash my hands now because I don't get salmonella.
Yep. Tim Allen, can I use stainless steel feeding tongs to feed anemones? You could if you wanted. I just squirt a little mysis at mine once in a while, and the tentacles grab it. So I wouldn't think you would need tongs, but I mean, stainless is fine. Just give it a rinse after and make sure it doesn't rust. This is the biggest thing. But yeah, definitely could use it. The biggest thing is if you use any type of metals in your aquarium, rinse it afterwards. Because over time, it's like most of the stuff is just coated. It's not fully stainless, and it will rust eventually. So rinse it in fresh water, dry it off after, and you'll be good. Rinse in fresh water too. Salt water rusts things badly. Exactly. All right, guys. I'm actually hitting the stop button now. So you guys have a wonderful evening, and thank you everyone for joining.
Bye, everyone.